Welcome to Book Nibbles. Big ideas, small bites. Eddie Jaku's The Happiest Man on Earth opens with the stark reality of a world transformed by hatred and prejudice, yet it is ultimately a story of resilience, hope, and the deliberate choice to embrace happiness in the face of unimaginable suffering. Born in 1920 in Germany, Eddie grew up in a loving Jewish family in Leipzig, in a time when the world was still recovering from the devastation of the First World War and the Great Depression. From his earliest years, he was curious, joyful, and fiercely observant, qualities that would serve him throughout a life marked by both immense tragedy and profound beauty. Eddie recounts childhood memories of a close-knit family, a supportive community, and a relatively normal life, even as the clouds of anti-Semitism began to gather over Europe. The book quickly establishes the historical context, detailing the rise of Hitler and the Nazi Party. Eddie's narrative captures not only the political shifts, but also the insidious ways in which hatred infiltrated daily life. As a teenager, he noticed changes in schools, neighborhoods, and public spaces. Jewish children were segregated, their opportunities limited, and fear became a constant companion. He remembers the chilling moments when classmates who once played with him were instructed to avoid contact, when families began to disappear, and when the fabric of society itself seemed to warp under the weight of systemic bigotry. These early experiences illustrate how discrimination can slowly erode normalcy and safety, setting the stage for the horrors that would follow. Eddie's personal story becomes inextricably intertwined with history when, as a young adult, he is sent to the Buchenwald concentration camp, and later to Auschwitz, the most notorious of the Nazi death camps. His account of camp life is harrowing yet precise, focusing not only on the physical hardships, hunger, forced labor, exposure to the elements, but also on the psychological torment of living in constant uncertainty, witnessing the suffering of friends and strangers alike. He recalls the brutal calculations of survival, where small acts of ingenuity, solidarity, or simple luck could mean the difference between life and death. Eddie emphasizes that in the camps, survival depended on alertness, adaptability, and sometimes sheer stubbornness, as well as the human capacity to maintain dignity under dehumanizing conditions. One of the striking features of Eddie's storytelling is the way he humanizes both the victims and the oppressors. He recounts moments of profound cruelty, but also instances where small acts of kindness or solidarity made a difference. He describes the ways prisoners supported one another, sharing food scraps, offering comfort, or helping each other endure forced labor, even when resources were scarce. These glimpses of humanity amidst horror underscore a central theme of the book, that even in the darkest circumstances, people have the capacity to choose compassion, courage, and resilience. Eddie's reflections emphasize that survival was never merely physical. It required a psychological commitment to retain one's sense of self, morality, and hope. Throughout the narrative, Eddie intersperses reflections on the lessons he learned during and after the Holocaust. One recurring theme is the power of choice. He notes that while the Nazis sought to strip prisoners of identity and agency, individuals could still choose their attitudes, their actions, and ultimately their inner lives. He shares personal anecdotes of maintaining a sense of humor, finding moments of beauty, and holding on to memories of family and community. These choices, he explains, were essential not only for survival but also for preserving the possibility of joy once liberation arrived. Eddie's philosophy is both simple and profound. Happiness is a decision, a deliberate act that can exist even in adversity. The book details Eddie's liberation and the immediate aftermath of the Holocaust. Emerging from the camps, he faced the immense task of rebuilding his life, mourning loved ones, and reconciling with the enormity of what had been lost. He recounts the challenges of navigating a post-war world, including encounters with anti-Semitism that persisted even after Nazi defeat, the difficulties of finding housing and work, and the deep psychological scars that lingered. Yet despite these obstacles, Eddie chose to embrace life, to find gratitude in small moments, and to seek meaningful connections. His post-war journey illustrates the human capacity for resilience and the deliberate cultivation of optimism, even after profound trauma. Eddie's narrative is enriched with vivid anecdotes from his life before, during, and after the Holocaust. He recalls the joy of childhood friendships, the excitement of young love, and the sense of belonging in his Jewish community, painting a picture of what was lost as well as what was preserved in memory. In the camps, he recounts moments of ingenuity and courage, finding ways to obtain extra food, avoiding beatings, or outwitting guards. These stories are not just about survival tactics. They demonstrate the enduring human spirit and the ways in which hope can be nurtured even in extreme circumstances. Another important aspect of the book is Eddie's reflections on forgiveness and the importance of choosing how to respond to hatred. He describes encounters with former Nazis in post-war Germany, emphasizing that while he could not forget the atrocities, he could choose not to let bitterness dominate his life. Eddie's approach to forgiveness is nuanced. It is not about absolving wrongdoers but about freeing oneself from the corrosive effects of anger and hatred. He repeatedly stresses that holding on to resentment diminishes the quality of life, whereas choosing compassion and focusing on the positive aspects of human experience allows for genuine happiness. Eddie also shares practical lessons for living a meaningful life, derived from his experiences. He emphasizes the importance of gratitude, daily reflection, and the conscious appreciation of small joys, the warmth of sunlight, the laughter of children, the beauty of nature, and the bonds of friendship. He recounts the ways he cultivated relationships, valued family, and engaged with his community, demonstrating that happiness is built through deliberate choices and sustained effort. Eddie's philosophy blends simplicity with profound insight. Joy is not something that happens to us but something we actively create through perspective, connection, and intentional living. Throughout the book, Eddie juxtaposes personal narrative with historical context, providing readers with a vivid understanding of the broader events of the 20th century. He recounts the rise of the Nazi regime, the systematic implementation of anti-Jewish laws, the logistics of deportation and concentration camps, and the political dynamics of post-war Europe. These historical details enrich the narrative, grounding Eddie's personal experiences in a wider framework that illustrates the scale and organization of the atrocities. By blending memoir with historical analysis, Gran ensures that the story is both emotionally compelling and intellectually informative. Eddie's memoir also explores themes of identity, belonging, and the preservation of culture. He reflects on what it means to maintain a Jewish identity in the face of systemic attempts at eradication and the ways in which cultural practices, memory, and community ties can sustain individuals through trauma. He recounts traditions, celebrations, and everyday practices that helped preserve a sense of normalcy and humanity, both during the war and in the years that followed. These reflections highlight the importance of cultural continuity and the role of collective memory in fostering resilience and self-understanding. The book includes poignant reflections on mortality, the value of life, and the fleeting nature of time. Eddie often emphasizes the importance of living fully in the present, cherishing relationships, and finding purpose in daily actions. He recounts encounters with fellow survivors and the ways in which shared experiences forged deep bonds of understanding and empathy. Eddie's observations on mortality are not morbid but rather celebratory. They underscore the preciousness of life and the responsibility to use one's time wisely, with kindness, courage, and joy. A significant portion of the narrative focuses on Eddie's post-war life in Australia, where he rebuilt his family and career. He recounts the challenges of immigration, the effort to establish a new home, and the creation of a supportive community. Eddie shares stories of marriage, raising children, and contributing to society, emphasizing the importance of engagement, service, and connection. His life story demonstrates that survival is not merely about physical endurance, but about creating a meaningful, fulfilling existence after trauma. The narrative illustrates how resilience, optimism, and deliberate action can transform a life that has been shaped by suffering into one defined by joy and purpose. Eddie's reflections on education and mentorship are also central to the book. He describes the importance of sharing lessons from his experiences with younger generations, ensuring that history is remembered and that the values of compassion, courage, and resilience are passed on. He engages in storytelling not only to preserve memory but to inspire action, emphasizing that each individual has the capacity to contribute positively to society and to cultivate happiness in themselves and others. These reflections highlight the intersection of personal experience, moral responsibility, and the cultivation of wisdom. Throughout the book, Eddie emphasizes the importance of perspective. He recounts moments when small choices, choosing optimism over despair, finding beauty in simple experiences, and fostering connections, made a profound difference in the quality of life. He contrasts these choices with the destructive power of hatred, fear, and bitterness, illustrating that happiness is often a matter of conscious decision rather than circumstance. Eddie's approach is both practical and philosophical, He offers readers concrete strategies for living well while encouraging reflection on the deeper principles that underpin a meaningful life. Eddie also reflects on the power of laughter, humor, and play, even amidst suffering. He recounts moments in the camps when small jokes, shared memories, or playful acts provided relief from despair. These anecdotes underscore the resilience of the human spirit and the ways in which joy can coexist with adversity. Eddie emphasizes that cultivating a sense of humor and the capacity to find light in darkness is an essential aspect of survival and a foundation for lasting happiness. The memoir repeatedly returns to the theme of gratitude, not as a passive feeling but as an active practice. Eddie describes his daily routines of reflection, appreciation for loved ones, and recognition of small blessings. He emphasizes that gratitude fosters perspective, resilience, and emotional well-being. These practices are presented not as abstract ideals but as actionable strategies that shaped his own life, enabling him to move beyond trauma and create a fulfilling existence. Eddie's narrative also explores the role of memory in shaping identity and sustaining moral insight. He recounts the necessity of remembering the past, both the horrors and the acts of courage and kindness, to guide future choices. Memory serves as a compass, helping individuals navigate moral dilemmas, maintain empathy, and preserve cultural and personal identity. Eddie emphasizes that memory is a tool for empowerment. It allows people to learn from experience, honor those who suffered, and cultivate a life aligned with their values. Throughout the book, Eddie's philosophy is grounded in simplicity, clarity, and ethical consistency. He advocates for love, kindness, curiosity, and resilience as guiding principles. He emphasizes the importance of maintaining hope and the deliberate choice to embrace happiness, even in the face of suffering. His reflections on forgiveness, gratitude, and perspective provide practical wisdom for navigating the complexities of life. The narrative demonstrates that enduring happiness is not dependent on external circumstances, but is cultivated through conscious choices, relationships, and moral engagement. Eddie also addresses the intergenerational impact of trauma, emphasizing the responsibility to bear witness and educate others. He recounts efforts to engage with younger generations, share lessons from the Holocaust, and encourage reflection on ethical responsibility, compassion, and resilience. These efforts underscore the broader societal significance of individual experience and highlight the ways in which personal narratives can contribute to collective understanding and moral growth. The book concludes with a celebration of life, joy, and the enduring human capacity for resilience. Eddie's reflections are both deeply personal and universally resonant. He demonstrates that even after witnessing the worst of humanity, it is possible to cultivate happiness, foster connection, and create meaning. His life story embodies the principles he advocates: choosing optimism, valuing relationships, practicing gratitude, embracing curiosity, and maintaining ethical integrity. The narrative leaves readers with a sense of hope, emphasizing that happiness is both a personal responsibility and a moral choice, available even in the aftermath of profound suffering. The Happiest Man on Earth is ultimately a story of survival, resilience, and the deliberate cultivation of joy. Eddie Jaku's life illustrates the power of choice, the importance of perspective, and the capacity for human beings to create meaning and happiness even in the most challenging circumstances. The book combines vivid storytelling, historical insight, and practical wisdom, offering readers both an emotional and intellectual understanding of the Holocaust, its aftermath, and the principles that can guide a fulfilling life. Through personal anecdotes, historical context, and philosophical reflection, Eddie conveys the profound lesson that happiness is not merely an outcome but a conscious practice, cultivated through love, gratitude, resilience, and ethical engagement. His story serves as a testament to the enduring power of hope and the remarkable strength of the human spirit. And that's it. Eddie Jaku's The Happiest Man on Earth. Thanks for listening to Book Nibbles. If you enjoyed this bite-sized book, don't forget to subscribe for more quick, insightful summaries. See you in the next nibble.